The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hey everyone, this is Rose Daly, the City Sustainability Coordinator of Sun Prairie, and you're listening to the Sustainable Sun Prairie Podcast, the show that aspires to educate, empower, and engage our listeners in all aspects of sustainability. Whether you are a seasoned sustainability enthusiast or just beginning your sustainability journey, each episode will have something new and exciting for everyone. Let's begin the conversation for a greener community. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode where we're discussing humans' connection with nature and the important role this plays in our well-being. We'll explore why humans are spending less time in nature than they did in the past, as well as some of the unique benefits we receive just from spending a few moments outside. Joining me today is a special guest who spends an envious amount of time in nature each week through his job with Groundswell Conservancy. BJ Byers, thank you so much for being here today and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me as well. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's BJ Byers. I'm with Groundswell Conservancy. I'm their land management director. I've been there for about 6 years. And yeah, I do a lot of stuff outside. I love it. I get to work not exclusively outside, but a lot of time outside, which is pretty great. So it's a nice balance between some office work and being out in nature and prairies and stuff like that.
I bet. What would you say is your ratio of office work to being outside?
It's definitely seasonal. You know, it depends on what needs to happen outside at certain times of year, but I would say at least, I would say more than a third of my time is spent outside.
That's so nice.
Each week. So, and sometimes it's a lot more than that, and sometimes when the weather's terrible or it's really cold outside, I'm definitely spending all week inside. So
okay, that's still really nice. I feel like more of us should have more time spent outside. Back when I was an intern, I was working for a consulting company, and I got to spend 40% of my time outside on construction sites. So it wasn't like I was out in the forest or in the prairie, but it was just nice being outside, getting fresh air, like seeing wildlife while I was also observing a construction site.
That counts.
It does.
That counts.
So are you familiar with those statistics that look at your entire life and they tell you how many years of your life you spend doing certain things?
Right, yeah.
Right.
Like sleeping is like half of your life.
Yeah, which is
makes
crazy.
Sense because, yeah, you sleep for 8 or 9 or whatever hours a night.
Right, or like you're going to spend 15 years of your life sitting down eating. Like crazy things like that we would never like think about.
Right.
So I looked up how many years of our life we spend indoors.
Oh, boy.
And this is a very scary statistic. So Americans on average spend 68 years of our life indoors.
Oh, my gosh.
68 years. And to put this into context, the average human life expectancy is 77 years.
Wow.
So we are spending less than 10% of our time outside in the natural world.
Holy cow. That's an alarming statistic.
It's alarming.
Sure.
Like if this doesn't get you outside, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Like get outside right now.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Like imagine if you live your whole life indoors and then at the age of 68, you now have less than 10 years to just spend time outside. I would cry.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good motivator right there.
It is, yeah. So can you help us understand why do we spend less time in nature than we did, let's say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? What is it about the 21st century and 2025 in particular that is kind of keeping us indoors?
Oh boy, where to start? Yeah, there's a lot of things. I think technology has a lot to do with it. It's not the sole reason, but I think technology probably has a lot to do with it.
Definitely.
We can feel that connection with other people without necessarily being right in front of them. So we can sit in the comfort of our house or on our couch and still talk to our parents that live across the country or whatever. So I think communication has become significantly easier. So there's a less motivator to go outside. Screens in general, they're addicting.
They're so bad for us.
They're so bad for us, but those pixels, once they hit your eyeballs, it's hard to look away, and it's good to make certain times where your phone is off or you're not looking at your TV or your computer or whatever. So
yeah, and all the instant gratification. if you just want to feel good, just look at your screen for 5 minutes.
Yep.
But then we get sucked in.
Dings and notifications that maybe you're thinking about something and you're on track, and all of a sudden you're distracted and now you're back on your phone. It's like, yeah, constantly. With the access to technology in our pockets with our phones, it's like you can't escape it, really. Unless you intentionally leave your devices at home, which most people don't do. So.
Right. And especially with kids, because I feel like when I was a kid, like, I had some toys inside, but I would always just go outside because, like, we had toys outside and my parents would just be like, go outside. You've watched 1 hour of television. It's too much.
Yep.
And this was back when, like, we didn't have cable and, like, we didn't have on-demand TV, whatever that was called back in the day, where, like, you have your scheduled shows, you watch them, and then when those are done, there's nothing else to do, so you go outside. But now, like...
Yeah. I was just explaining that concept to my 7-year-old son last week, actually.
How did that go?
I was like, you know how you have these shows on whatever platform you're watching your shows on TV, and you can just watch an entire season, like, over the course of 2 days if you want to? I was like, that didn't exist when I was a kid.
Right. Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day. Like, you had to wait, like, on Friday at 6 o'clock, you know, like, right after dinner or whatever, to get your show. Like, that was your chance. And if you missed it, you just hope that there was a rerun later on. But yeah, right now, everything's at your fingertips. You can watch whatever, whenever.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which is so crazy. And then in addition to that, like, our kids also oftentimes have, like, iPads or, like, phones at a very young age. I didn't get my phone until I was in high school, and it was a dumb phone. It wasn't a smartphone. So, like, I barely used it. But, like, a lot of kids these days have additional entertainment on screens aside from the TV.
Yeah, absolutely. My first cell phone was senior year of high school, and it was just for calling and texting. There was no... And you had to hit each button multiple times to get a certain letter for a text.
There's no keyboard.
Nope, no keyboard. The good days.
Yeah, I would definitely say technology is keeping us indoors.
Yep.
Also, like, with vehicles, we're more vehicle dependent than we were back in the day, so when we do want to go somewhere, we'll jump in our car as opposed to walking or biking.
Right. Yeah, depending on where you live. If you live, you know, in the middle of a city, it might be easier to get around. Walking, taking, you know, bike paths or trails. But if you're in an urban setting or further away from the city, like, you basically have to get in some sort of vehicle. If you want to get to work or to a hospital or whatever. So
yeah, definitely. And I want to talk about urbanization for a moment, because I feel like back in the day, and when I say back in the day, like, maybe I mean when our parents were growing up, I don't know. But back when we didn't have as many urban areas, we could go outside and there would be a park nearby, or we would have a very large yard that we could go play in. But I feel like now in these urban areas, if you want to find a park, you have to go searching for it, or you might have to drive to the park or bike to the park. It's not within walking distance. And I feel like when people want to spend time outside, we don't want to, like, walk outside and sit by the highway. Like, that's not fun for us. We want to like kind of escape and, like, go where we can hear the bird calls and, like, where we don't see cars and infrastructure anymore. And sometimes it's hard to get to those places now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, accessibility is definitely an issue for a lot of people. And yeah, if you can't get out, then you're not going to be able to experience nature maybe in the way that you want to it. Anybody can experience nature literally by just going outside, but that's not necessarily the experience that everybody wants. Sometimes you want to get out to where it's more wild and where it's more quiet and all you can hear are the birds.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. And I think going back to, like, inability to access these spaces, I've also seen that nowadays some people can't afford to get out in nature. So whether that's being able to afford a park pass or a parking pass to get to a free park, or even paying for the gas they might need to drive out to that green space. And that's becoming a big issue as well.
Right. Yeah, or even bus fare just to get to another place. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't seem like a lot, but that can be a huge barrier for a lot of people.
Exactly.
For sure.
Any other reasons why we spend less time in nature?
Busy schedules, lack of time. You know, you get up in the morning, eat your breakfast, and then before you know it, it's nighttime, it seems. Sometimes days just go by like that. And
that's so depressing, honestly.
Yeah, from sunrise to sunset, you're just busy and you feel like you don't have a break and you don't have time to do all the things you want to do, and then you start over the next day doing the same thing. So trying to actively find time to set aside and be proactive about it can be tricky sometimes depending on your work schedule.
Yeah, that's really true. And I feel like the things we fill our time with, we're trying to be intentional with them. A lot of them are indoors. So like a lot of us like to exercise, but most of us just buy a gym membership and then we're indoors working out, which is fine. Like that's really good. But I feel like back in the day, there was a lot more people who were working out outside because there weren't as many gyms you could access.
Right. Exactly.
I feel like whenever there's like a yoga in the park, I just jump on that because I'm like, yes, this is where yoga should be.
I've never done that, but it sounds great.
We'll have to go together sometime. I think there's like probably one in Madison we could go to.
Oh, there's definitely one in Madison.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like nowadays people need to actually schedule time outside. Like it has to like go into your planner. Like I'm going to go outside for 30 minutes after work and take a walk. And then if it's not scheduled, it won't happen.
Yeah, I do the same. I do the same thing for sure. I have to schedule it.
It's sad. Like it's good that you're scheduling it, but it's sad that we have to do that.
Right.
I wish like being in nature was a more integrated part of our lifestyle, but it isn't the way society is set up, at least here in Dane County.
Right.
So over your own lifetime, have you personally noticed a decline in the amount of time you spend in nature?
That's a great question. When I was a kid. When I was a kid, I feel like I spent a lot of time outside. Mm-hmm. Like thinking nowadays, like I try to get my son out a lot, and he definitely spends a lot of time outside. But I lived outside as a kid. Mm-hmm. The classic, come home when the street lights turn on. Like that was what I did. I would come home from school. My parents would make sure that I had whatever homework needed to be done, do that. And then I'm free to do whatever I want until those street lights came on. And I'd either by myself or I'd meet up with my friends. I lived on my bike. I would get to wherever I needed to go and just whatever. We'd build forts in the woods. Mm-hmm. We would just explore, probably places we shouldn't have been, but it was just, we were always on an adventure, just living outside. And I feel like as I got older, it definitely decreased. And then as technology started, I had my Game Boy or whatever. I had my little devices as a kid, but
yeah,
I certainly didn't live on it.
Right.
And yeah, I spend a lot of time outside, but as you get older, it seems you have to be more proactive, like we said earlier, with finding time to get outside. You have other responsibilities that you need to do, and life gets in the way, and you got to find that time to get outside. But I definitely think I lucked out because I found a job that allowed me to spend the appropriate amount of time for myself to be outside. Like some people don't have that luxury, and some people don't want that luxury. Like I'm more than happy sitting behind my computer on a spreadsheet typing in numbers, but for me, no way. I would not last. So I feel like there was the middle part of my life, maybe in college, and a few years after that, I definitely spent a lot more time inside. But now I spend a good amount of time outside. So
okay, so it's kind of fluctuated, but you feel like you're at a good place now.
Yeah, I think I'm at a good place. You can always spend more time outside, but I think I'm at a good place right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I had the same experience growing up where like my core childhood memories are going outside, meeting up with the neighbor kids on the block, and then we would just spend hours outside. Like we would visit each other's like homes, so we would always stay in the backyard or the front yard, and we just like had so much fun playing games, playing with chalk. Like it was so fun. Like I love those memories.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, like you have a son. Have you noticed that? Like, does he hang out with the neighborhood kids? Like, is that a thing anymore?
It actually, in our neighborhood, it is, which
okay,
I'm so, I'm so happy about.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we always wanted to be the parents where we just have kids constantly going in and out the door. And
so
I guess
cool.
we're, hosting this guy today or whoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get kids knocking on our door. Can Jay come out and play? And I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of when I was a kid.
I love that so much. Yes. Like that like warms my heart.
Yep. And it's only started happening in the last year or so. Now that the kids are getting a little bit more freedom and they have their own bikes and stuff. So it's like, oh, it's so refreshing.
That is so cool. Okay, cool. So I have not lost hope in humanity then.
Great. Yep. No, it's still there.
Yeah. So for me, like as I grew up, I feel like the next big time I spent a lot of time in nature was when I lived in Costa Rica.
Ooh.
So let me tell you a little bit about this. I was living in the Monteverde area, so the cloud forest of Costa Rica. I was there for 1 year for a job. And the lifestyle in Costa Rica had so much nature integrated into it. So let me outline this for you. I had no car in Costa Rica. I also had no bike because those dirt roads, the rocky roads, they were not good for biking unless you had like a big fat tire bike, which they didn't sell there. So I relied on hiking, walking, or backpacking everywhere I went. And to get to my place of work, I had to walk a mile. To get to the grocery store, I had to walk 3 miles.
Oh boy.
And that might sound like a huge inconvenience to some people, but it just became the normal part of life where you have to rely on your own 2 legs to get you everywhere you need to go. So I would like bring a huge like 50-gallon backpack to the grocery store, load it up with my groceries, and then I would carry that back to my house. And
Wow.
sometimes it would be pouring rain, but I had no choice, or else it would be like really hot out, really windy, and I just had to go out in nature and do that because I had no other choice. And I loved it. I loved being in nature. And I loved that lifestyle, and it forced all of us to slow down because it's no longer get in your car, you'll be there in 20 minutes, or like go, go, go. You have such a packed schedule, but you can make it work because you have a car. Like we were more intentional with our schedules, with what we bought, with how we spent our free time. And I just loved that. And I worked in an open air building. So like monkeys would visit us, birds would visit us. It was the coolest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
And that was like the most ideal lifestyle for me. And then on weekends, people might think, oh, well, you spent so much time walking back and forth during the week. Like you'd probably want to spend time inside on the weekends. No, we were out like hiking 10 miles in the national parks because there's just so much to see there. And that just became like the best part of our life was spending time outside.
Absolutely. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I miss that.
That's a lot of time outside.
It was so cool. I think, so we tracked every single walk or hike that we did. And I think we had hiked, I want to say 1,000 miles within 9 or 10 months of being there.
Wow. Wow. And that's with, you know, rain and rocky roads and all sorts of stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's incredible.
It was the coolest life ever. Like every day I'm like, we should go move back there.
Yeah. Yep. And you're still smiling about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, okay, so then fast forward after that, then I moved to Wisconsin, which is where I am now. And the lifestyle changed so much. So I have like an 8 to 5 office job, which I love my job, but that's the reality now. I work at a desk or I work at my home and I'm inside the whole time. And I'm like you, I have to schedule my time outside. And it's usually 30 minutes if I'm lucky. That's
boy.
how much I can fit in if, you know, on top of like grocery shopping, meal prepping, you know, doing your hobbies, other things like that, cleaning your house. That's all I have time for now,
Yeah.
during the work week at least.
Yeah. No, I can relate for sure. Yeah. That's quite a change
Yeah,
from hiking everywhere in Costa Rica.
I know. I like oftentimes tell people here, like, I just want to go live in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that?
Every once in a while, but then the reality kicks in and I'm like, oh, maybe just for a little while.
Yeah.
Maybe just for a little
Like
while.
temporary, like we need like a little like nature retreat and then we can come back and deal with life.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in my junior year of college, I spent 4 months living in the wilderness in Idaho
Stop.
for the Forest Service.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
I cleared trail. My job
Okay.
was to clear backcountry trail so that people on horseback could get by.
Wow.
So I ran into, I think, 2 people in the 4 months, both on horseback, and they were
my
very
gosh.
appreciative because in the wilderness you can't use any power tools, anything
Okay.
that's gas. There's nothing with wheels. You can't have wheels out there.
Okay.
So no bicycles, no vehicles.
So you're clearing by hand,
Clearing
like
with an axe.
hiking and okay.
With an axe and
That's
a
crazy.
2-person crosscut saw. So it was just me and one other guy, and we camped every night, cooked our food
Wow.
every morning, lunch, dinner, cooked it outside. It's like if you were to go camping at
Yeah.
Devil's Lake, except for 4 months and nobody's there.
Yeah, no people.
Yeah. I remember coming back to, I guess, civilization, you could say, coming back to my campus and just being severely overwhelmed by sounds and artificial lights. Like going into a
Yeah.
grocery store and just seeing the fake lights overhead was like, I didn't realize how much it affected me. Like not in a good way. Like it was not great. Spending all of that time outside was just like, it was the biggest reset that I've ever had, and it was so nice. Yeah, it helped me connect with nature quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I guess that's my Costa Rica.
That is so cool though. Wow. So like how did you guys get food? Did someone drop it off or did you like make stops at stores?
No, we were in the middle of nowhere. It was the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness in the middle of Idaho. I believe it's the largest wilderness area in the lower 48, and we were almost smack dab in the middle. We got dropped off in a Super Cub airplane, a little tiny.
Oh my gosh!
Just a couple people could fit in it with our backpacks and our gear, which had our tent and stuff. And I think it was like every second Wednesday, a plane would land in a grassy airfield, and then it would drop off food that would last for the next 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And we would just put it in our backpack and continue clearing trail. It was pretty intense.
That's so cool. Can you please write a book about this? I just want to learn more about your experience. I want to live it through a book.
That would be great, actually. I documented a lot. I had a journal. I had never journaled in my life, and I don't do it now, but that was the one time where I did do it because it felt like something that just needed to happen.
And you probably had time to do it, to sit down and
that's probably
put all your thoughts on a piece of paper.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
No screens, no showers. We bathed in the creeks. It was pretty wild.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. And it was volunteer. I didn't get paid for it.
You didn't get paid to do this?
No.
Wow. No. Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was worth it for the mental benefits, the well-being benefits, even if you weren't financially compensated.
Yeah, absolutely. I still talk about it, and that was probably 18 years ago.
Wow. Do you ever feel this craving to go back to that, even just temporarily?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's rare that you can find a place that is so utterly quiet. Mm-hmm. There's some documentary online somewhere where somebody has researched this, and they set out these very these intense microphones out in the middle of these wilderness areas, and they're still able to pick up sounds from airplanes crossing over, or a quarry that's in the distance that's blowing up rocks and dynamites and stuff like that. So there's it's really hard to escape sound and just have pure nature. And there's a few spots in the world where you can go and you can get there. And the place where I wasn't like that, but it was probably as close as you could get.
Yeah. I feel like I would pay good money to go to those few places.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just be absolutely silent, other than nature. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's wonderful.
It is. Wow. This is so cool. So now that you're no longer in Idaho, what would you say are your favorite ways to spend time in nature, and then how does it make you feel?
My favorite ways to spend time in nature, honestly, it's the 1 or 2 hikes that I do with my wife and my 7-year-old every weekend. Just about every weekend. Sometimes we have other plans, doesn't happen, but I'd say every weekend we make it a point and put it in the calendar. We are going to this place. We're going to spend this much time out there. And we usually have we're all pretty goal oriented. What do we want to see? Mm-hmm. So we think about this time last year, and it's okay, well, this time last year, pasque flowers were blooming. Some prairie smoke might be blooming as well, might be early. The cranes, I remember seeing the cranes last year. They were singing or bugling very loudly. Mm-hmm. They made it back from migration. So we usually have well, what did we see last year? Let's see if we could see it again this year, since it's about the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what we do throughout the entire year. And it's nice because sometimes on my phone I'll get, again, referencing back to my phone, but I'll get a little notification that says this time last year or this time 5 years ago, and it'll show me a little
a photo.
Yeah, a photo or a series of photos from what I was doing, and I was just wow, I literally did the same exact thing 5 years apart, almost to the day. Mm-hmm. But I love it.
Yeah.
It's great. I love, and that's phenology. That's the nature changing throughout the seasons. It's cyclical. It's comforting to me. I love that you can go out, and as wild as it seems, you can still expect to see the same stuff outside at any given time of the year. So that's what we do. We make, a trip on the weekend. Sometimes I have to bribe my kid to get out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have to bribe myself to get out. It's hard to motivate yourself, but
would you say does your kiddo get excited about finding the different birds or insects or flowers that you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he does. Especially if we have that let's see if we can go find some skunk cabbage, or let's see if we can find this, because he knows what it looks like.
Yeah.
Now he's on a hunt, and there's a goal. And inevitably, what these hikes turn into is, we may not have found what we were looking for, but look at all this other really cool stuff that we found along the way. Like, do you remember that bug that we found on that boardwalk? Like, how creepy was that? Like,
Yeah.
And now we have new things that we took photos of, and we can remember for a future year. But let's see if we can find that bug again on the boardwalk. That was really cool last year. So
That's so cool. And I feel like for your kid, that is like, it's a lesson, it's education, it's an adventure, it's fun. They're learning, and they're getting the benefits of being in nature. So it's like a win in every category.
Absolutely.
And they probably like maybe come home tired, and then like there aren't as many like tantrums. They go to bed early. I don't know.
Sometimes all the stars align, and that exactly happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so cool.
And my wife is really into doing artwork. So she does a lot of watercolor. So she'll bring like a little sketchbook out with her paints and stuff, and get him into it too. And they'll just paint what they see. And
Aww.
they both love it. It's great.
I love that. That's like my dream, is to paint out on a nature trail.
Yeah, you don't have to just be out there with a pair of binoculars or whatever. You can do whatever you want. Meditate. You can do yoga out there. You can paint.
You can like knit to the sound of nature.
As long as you're outside. I think that's what matters.
Exactly. Yeah. We kind of do something similar, me and my husband. There's a really pretty 5-mile nature trail right next to our apartment. Like, we're so lucky with where we live. It's the Fox River Trail, if you've heard of it or been to it. But what we do is we try to go out every night or every morning. We'll just walk about 1.5 miles on the nature trail. And we are really paying attention to the wildlife and the plants out there. And we've started this huge list of every time we see a new species, we'll like write it down on the list. And we've seen so many cool animals and insects on that trail, like so many different bird species. And it's hard to know that they're there unless you're out there every day and you're like taking the time to like stop, listen, and look for them.
Right. Absolutely. That sounds great. That sounds really fun. Making an intentional effort to get outside. And then I think what some people are afraid of, like, they might not be able to, like, they're interested in all of the wildlife and the plants and the insects that are out there, but it seems so overwhelming because there's so many different things. And, it's as easy as, again, I don't want to go back to technology, but sometimes technology can be incorporated into nature.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what gets people out. Like, there's a few apps where you literally just aim your camera at a bug or at a plant, and it'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to be on your phone the whole time, but if that is a way for you to connect with nature. So, yeah, I'm wondering, you obviously go out on your walks every day, and like you see a bug or an insect or a plant or something, like, and you don't know what it is, do you try to identify it later? Do you like get a picture of it, or are you just like, that's cool?
Yeah, we'll grab a photo, and then we'll usually try to identify it back at the apartment, because we bring our phones, but I'm like, we should not be looking at our phones unless we're taking a photo. But there's been like some different mammals that we've seen in the water where we weren't sure if it was like a muskrat or I'm forgetting like little critter names.
Beaver.
Yeah, like we know what the beavers are, because there's actually one beaver that we've seen 3 times, which is just, it's so cool seeing a beaver like
they're big.
In the Fox River. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're very graceful when they swim. But yeah, we'll take photos, and then we'll like identify them back at the house. Then we'll like add it to our list, and then we'll like be on the lookout for those mammals the next time we're out there.
That's great.
Yeah, it's super fun. I think for me, like, I found out that there's a time of the year when I am truly the happiest. And for some people, maybe it's their birthday, maybe it's Christmas or Thanksgiving. But for me, it is when we do our annual camping trip at the end of August. We do rustic camping for about 5 days. And that is probably the only time during the year when I'm in nature for an extended amount of time, like more than a few hours or more than one night. And that is when I truly feel the happiest. I don't feel the happiest until the afternoon of the second day, because it
so
takes
specific.
Yes, because I'm like, now that we go every year, I'm like, okay, let's see how long it takes me until I'm fully decompressed. There's no more stress. I've let everything go. And it's not until the afternoon of the second day.
Wow.
Because like I need time to just like disconnect, unplug, and just forget about all of the problems and stresses we have in life. And then it's like after the afternoon of the second day, I'm just so happy and like blissful the rest of the camping trip. And it's like my favorite part of the year.
That's great. And I'm glad that you know that. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you know that.
We need more camping trips though, because I need to, like, I shouldn't be feeling that way almost only once a year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've booked reservations for 3 different camp trips this year. So,
yeah.
And sometimes we slide extra ones in if we can, but
Mm-hmm.
same, you know, I couldn't tell you the exact day on my camping trip where I start to feel, because it's definitely, you're right, it's not right away. Like,
Yeah.
you get there and it's like, I gotta set up my tent, I gotta get all this stuff ready, I gotta
Yeah.
look at the forecast and see, like, hopefully I packed everything. So
Right.
there's still a little bit of like stress, even though it's like, it's not the biggest stress. It's like you're still camping, you're still out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd say you're probably right by around day 2 or so.
Yeah.
Be like,
And that's why
okay.
like weekend camping trips don't cut it for me. Cause like by the time I'm finally happy, we're packing up and leaving. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So now that we've covered our favorite ways to spend time in nature, what would you say are some of the top benefits we see from spending time in nature?
Well, I would say personally, my mental health is amazing after being outside. Like I can tell when I start feeling anxious, or I'm just like, I don't have a lot of patience with my kid or with myself, or I'm just like, you're not feeling right.
Mm-hmm.
Go outside, take a walk for 10 minutes. I got 2 dogs, walk a dog or both of them at the same time, although that can be, that in and of itself can be a little stressful because they're pullers.
Mm-hmm.
But just get outside, come back, take deep breaths while you're out, come back in. And for me, it's like my mental health is just like, it's that reset that I needed. As small as it was,
Yeah.
it really, really helped. So for me, mental health, exercise, getting outside and walking, even if it's just a little bit, like I said, 10 minutes walking your dog, it's getting your heart pumping, you're breathing fresh air in. It does wonders for you.
Mm-hmm.
The list goes on. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think the stress relief is a really big one for me too, and just for everyone in 2025, you know, where life is so stressful. Yeah, we see stress reduction, improved mood. I feel like also when I go for just like a 20-minute walk, I can focus better when I get back on whatever task I'm doing, whether it's cooking or like working and I took a walk during my lunch break. I have better focus, better attention, and also increased creativity. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I think some people will get the best ideas when they're like out on a walk or a bike ride.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Sometimes you're in a funk and you're just like, oh my God, you feel like you're just wasting your time just sitting there. It's like, how do I snap out of this? Like, how do I get the creative juices flowing? And it's like, go outside, you come back, and then all of a sudden you're just like refreshed and you're like, let's do this. Like, I have all of these ideas that I didn't have. Even if while on your walk, you weren't thinking about anything.
Yeah.
Your mind was just completely blank.
Yeah.
It's like you come back and you're just ready. It's
Right.
wonderful how that happens.
It like clears your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, can you say you get really good ideas on your like commute home from work and traffic, or like when you're at the grocery store? Because I definitely don't. I'm just like you said, it's too stimulating with the lights and the noises and all the people. It's hard to just focus and like think creatively.
I agree. On my commutes, I'm almost exclusively listening to podcasts, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to listen to podcasts that are almost exclusively like relaxing
Yeah.
and not heavy, like
Okay.
emotionally. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's uplifting. Maybe there's a lot of like comedy involved. Like that is what soothes me on my ride home from work. If I'm not biking, I do live close enough to bike, and when I do that, that's even better.
Yeah.
But-
That's awesome that you can bike to work. I think also when we spend time in nature, we develop a greater appreciation for the natural world, like when we see these species or we hear the bird calls. And I think that leads to a greater desire in us to protect the natural world. At least for me, I think people who are very disconnected from nature, they maybe don't see the point in protecting it because they don't have that connection anymore, that everything we consume comes from the earth, and then when we throw it away, it's going to go back to the earth, likely not in a good way.
Right.
So I think that's a big benefit as well.
Absolutely.
So in preparing for this episode, I reviewed some literature because I wanted to see what the scientific world was saying about benefits of spending time in nature. So I looked at 3 studies and I wanted to share with you the findings. And I just want to hear your thoughts on them. Like if this was expected, a surprise, if it's a shock to you, what was in the studies.
Okay.
So the first one is a 2008 Mayer et al. Study. What they did is they took a group of participants and they had them spend 15 minutes either walking in a natural setting, walking in an urban setting, or 15 minutes watching a video of nature. And then after those activities and during them, they observed their attention spans, their emotions, and their connection to nature. So out of those 3, like what would you expect to be the conclusion of that study?
I would expect that it was natural setting, urban setting.
And then watching a video of nature indoors.
So, I mean, I feel like gut instinct is telling me watching a video is probably not going to give you the most,
right?
I don't know, the most focus or...
Yeah.
I'm thinking being in a natural setting is probably the greatest, followed by urban setting and then
the video. Yeah. That's what I thought as well. But I actually was kind of surprised with the results. So the researchers found that in all 3 studies, exposure to nature increased connectedness to nature, attentional capacity, positive emotions, and the ability to reflect on a life problem, even when they were just watching a video of nature.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like almost the same level in all 3. And as I was thinking about this more, so like the video one, it seems kind of weird to me, but what I realized is like I love to listen to nature sounds on Spotify. I have this this one playlist I listen to where it's like streams flowing, wind blowing, and like bird calls. And when I listen to that, I can't see anything, but I'm hearing these noises. I feel so relaxed and calm. So I think maybe there's the same effect when you're watching a video of like a waterfall or like a prairie blowing in the breeze, even though we think like, oh, you're looking at a screen, it's not going to do anything good for you.
Yeah, totally. And you know, now that you mention that, like me and my family are really into watching nature documentaries.
Oh, cool.
And there are some amazing ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember years and years ago, Planet Earth was like, it was like the big one.
Yeah.
The big nature documentary. And from there, it's just been, it's amazing the stuff that they have, the cinematography, like the shots that they can get, like at nighttime or thermal imaging. Like you can see so many different animals in their own habitat. And what's amazing is just how connected you can feel, even though it's through a documentary. Like the storytelling that they're able to do in some of these documentaries is just very, I don't know, there's something about it where at the end of it, I do feel closer to that animal, or I do feel more connected. But it is surprising that it is through a screen still. It's just a series of pixels hitting your brain, and it's like, yeah, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that as we learn more about animals, we feel more connected to them. Like as we learn more about humans, that's how we form relationships with them. And we know we probably can't ever get close to these animals that we're seeing in like, you know, the middle of the ocean that are being filmed, but then we can feel that connection with them and appreciation for them. And then again, that desire to protect them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really cool study. So I guess conclusion here, if you truly can't get outside, can you watch a nature video for 10 minutes? That could help calm your mind.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot. It's worth it.
It is. Okay, the next study. So we hear this word well-being a lot. That's like a big focus. Mental health, well-being, making sure that you are doing well. I didn't realize there are 2 different types of well-being. Did you happen to know what those are, or that there were 2 different types?
No.
Okay. No. So there's 2 different types. The first one is hedonic well-being. And this focuses on pleasure and happiness and is often associated with life satisfaction and the absence of negative emotions. Okay. So that sounds like an awesome well-being to have.
Yeah.
Absence of negative emotions and you're satisfied with your life. So cool. I strive for that. And then the other well-being, it's called eudaimonic. And this well-being emphasizes meaning, purpose, and living a life of virtue. So pretty cool. And a 2015 Capaldi et al. Study, they found that spending time in nature increases both hedonic well-being and eudaimonic well-being.
I believe it.
Me too.
I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another reason to get outside, both sides of well-being will be increased. I wonder if there's different activities that will only like increase or emphasize one type of well-being but not the other.
Yeah, that's true. So one was like pleasure and happiness, and the other one was more of like purpose
and satisfied with life, or life of virtue.
Yeah. I maybe it depends on like what you're doing outside too.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, like my family and I were very motivated to check things off lists, find a certain bird, see this. We're very like motivational, like motivation driven. So I feel like I can relate a little bit more to that one, although I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a cool study.
We could do a whole episode on this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the last study I wanted to share with you blew my mind. So this is a 2019 White et al. Study that was published in Nature, so top of the top publication. In this study, they wanted to examine the association between recreational nature contact and health and well-being. So was there a correlation between those two? And they actually had over 20,000 people participate in the study. So this is very comprehensive.
Okay.
What they did is they had participants spend a variety of time in nature over the course of a week. So they had some people who had zero contact with nature over the week. How depressing, right?
Yeah, no thank you.
Right. So they had that at the very bottom of the spectrum. And then at the top, they had people who were spending 120 minutes or more in nature over the week. And then what they studied was their health and well-being during that time. So
at the most, it was 2 hours over the course of a week, 120 minutes.
It was 120 minutes or more. So I think they had some people
Or
spending
more.
like 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours in nature just to get to that end of the spectrum.
Okay.
But they had the whole array of that.
Okay.
So any hypotheses here?
I mean, right off the bat, I would imagine the more time you spend outside, just the better your well-being and happiness and all of that would be.
Yeah.
More connected with nature. And yeah, the opposite for less time outside.
Right.
That would be my
Exactly.
guess.
Yeah, so what they found is that participants who spent 120 minutes or more in nature over 1 week, so that's kind of the threshold was 120 minutes, they had a significantly greater likelihood of reporting good health and high well-being. And that was consistent across all age groups, so youth all the way up to elderly people, and all levels of health, so people who were very healthy versus people who were ill.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool that the benefits of nature will be the same regardless of how old you are or how healthy you are.
Yeah.
And something else interesting is it didn't matter how the 120 minutes per week of contact was achieved. So maybe you had spent 20 minutes every day outside, or you may have spent just 2 hours outside on one day, like on a Saturday. But regardless, as long as it was 120 minutes over a week, you felt those same benefits.
So there's really no excuse unless you physically can't get outside.
Yes.
Like, I can't, I can see myself saying, if I can't spend, 3 hours of my Saturday to go out on a hike, then I might as well just
not go.
10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5
Yeah.
minutes, an hour. It all adds up and ends up being good for you. So that's I like that. That's a good motivator to get outside. It doesn't
is.
matter how much time in any given outing, as long
Yeah.
as you're just spending time outside. That's great.
Exactly. And I think what some people don't realize is spending time in nature or outside doesn't mean you have to be out hiking in the woods. It can mean you're sitting on your porch, you're listening to the bird calls, and you're watching the bees fly around. That counts as spending time outside.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems pretty easy.
Yeah,
That seems pretty easy.
I agree. And then here's the part that blew my mind. So what they found actually is that the positive benefits associated with spending time in nature actually peaked and then plateaued around 200 to 300 minutes per week, with no further gain beyond this time frame. So I think what this is saying is if you spend 3 to 5 hours of time in nature, you reach this ultimate happiness, and then you just ride that wave until you're not in nature anymore.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I
so
never thought about it that way.
We were in Costa Rica and Idaho. We were reaching our maximum and not seeing
Yes,
any
we were
extra.
living at the maximum.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's probably when we were talking about our camping trips and when we finally get to fully decompress and then we're truly happy, I think we've reached that plateau and then we're just riding that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I wish it only took me 3 to 5 hours to get to that point. It usually takes the day and a half before I can get there, but I just thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, I like that statistic better than the 68 years indoors.
Yes.
For sure.
This is like a new achievement you can unlock. Like, try to challenge yourself to spend 3 hours in nature a week, and then you'll unlock peak happiness.
Yeah, there's the secret to happiness.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna go viral. All right. So I know part of Groundswell's mission statement, so going back to your work, is to connect people with nature. Can you share more about this effort in your work and what kinds of benefits you have seen?
Yeah, we try to get everybody outside through various different ways. Like, we're a nonprofit environmental organization. We're a land trust. But, you know, we buy land, and then we have our preserves. We have one here in Sun Prairie at Patrick Marsh. We have another one at Westport Prairie, near Waunakee in Wisconsin. And we have field trips. We try to get people outside for those. We hold all sorts of events. We work with schools, try to get kids outside. I have my regular outdoor volunteer events every month. I've got a couple of those at our 2 preserves where we get people outside and connect them with nature. And, you know, sometimes we're out there cutting brush, doing some really, really tough work, but sometimes we're also just walking around, like, trying to identify flowers and, like, looking at butterflies and stuff. So
Super cool.
yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. We've got some community farms where we invite people out and just get people outside and experience the outdoors. Yeah. We don't have one avenue that we work with. We do all sorts of stuff to get people outside.
That is awesome. And what kind of reactions have you gotten from the people who attend these events?
All smiles. They're always happy. Although we did recently host a pasque flower walk. So there's a flower that pops up around the second week of April, and it's beautiful. It's this little pinkish purple, looks like a crocus, and it's like the only flower that's up outside at this one spot. It's in a few places in Wisconsin, but it's here. And it was so windy. Like, it was, the people who were on that field trip will know, like, it was the windiest, and they were still smiling. Like,
Aww.
I almost got blown over. It was so windy out. This was last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, people were still just so happy. Like, our field trips are usually like an hour, so it's like you just go outside and boom, there's one of your 2 to 3 hours to fulfill the happiness, and it works. Like, just getting outside, breathing the fresh air, walking around, it does great things for you.
Yeah. I agree that even if there are, like, not good weather conditions, like a little bit of rain or wind, I still feel happy outside. And I wonder, in that big study with the 20,000 participants, I feel like there was probably some bad weather that happened during that study. But sounds like that didn't impact people's happiness.
For sure, yeah. No, and you know what? Honestly, depending on how bad the weather is, sometimes those can make for some of the most memorable experiences.
Yeah. Like, who doesn't love, like, watching a storm, right?
Yeah.
From a porch or something.
Yeah, but, you know, watching it from a tent, I've done that before.
Wow.
That's stressful. I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people have done that, but
Right.
you can hear the thunder and see the lightning in the very far distance, and you're like, I remember this one time we didn't have service, so it was like, oh my gosh, I hope that storm is going the other way, and it slowly is creeping towards you. You can hear the thunder getting a little bit louder. The lightning is a little bit brighter against your tent. And sure enough, we got smacked with it. We had to run into our car and, like, spend the night sleeping in our car because
Oh my gosh.
the wind and the rain was so intense.
Yeah.
But I'll always remember that. Like,
Yeah,
it was
it's part of the adventure.
Yeah, it was terrible conditions. I would have never gone camping had I looked at the forecast ahead of time, but it was great
Yeah.
looking back.
I love that.
So,
I think everyone needs an experience like that. That wraps up part 1 of our conversation on our connection to nature. Make sure to tune into part 2, where we'll discuss what it takes to protect special places forever. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to Sustainable Sun Prairie with your host, Rose Daly. I hope you enjoyed this episode and uncovered something new about sustainability. As always, you can subscribe to our podcast and listen anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and you can listen live on 103.5 FM The Sun, WLSP-LP, and on demand on the Sun Prairie Media Center app. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as our contact info, please visit the show notes. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.